Hey there. Today I am revisiting a topic that almost always seems to be popular, and that is ranking out all of our wonderful heroes and villains against one another to see who above all else comes out on top. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. I've had a few people specifically ask about getting an updated tier list, and with 4 new affiliations, 16 new characters with rules, and more experience both playing with and against the other 26 characters, I think now is as good a time as any to revisit the topic. Before I dive in, I want to take a quick peek back at where I landed on the characters we knew at the time. Thor and Shuri were up top, and then Crossbones and Groot down in the bottom tier. And everyone else was somewhere in between. I will say after looking over this list, I know of at least a couple of characters that will be shuffling around a little bit after having more experience with them. Something worth noting is that I am making the tiers a little bit different, as I have eliminated a row, which is going to force me to do a bit more decisive and brutal things with my thoughts, and I am doing the letter grading scale instead of the numbers, for honestly no reason other than I wanted to. The last two things I want to mention is that because there are now 42 characters to go over, I am going to be lumping some groups of characters together for the sake of brevity. And if you want to discuss a few characters more in depth and why I put them where I did, feel free to message me or just comment down below. And second, I want to clarify that I did not think that there is any power creep in MCP, but there are different power levels for each threat level. Any character that I rank low here on this list is not a terrible character that should never see play or just have their threat reduced, because then they would probably just be absurd. But naturally, in a game that utilizes a character evaluation system that is single digits, there are going to be some 3-threat characters that are really like a 3.3 or a 3.4, and some characters that are a 3.8, which is where a discussion like this comes from. So I will be looking at each character only with their character card in mind. No tactic cards or leadership abilities to help them. I will take some thought on the leaders themselves and how strong their leadership ability is and how well it works within the affiliation, since it is a pretty large part of those characters' designs. So with that, let's talk about our leaders first. Alright, so starting with the leaders here, I've got, well, Captain America. Definitely deserves to continue to stay in the A tier, I believe. The Avengers are just continuing to grow as a roster, so it's becoming wider and wider, and Cap's very universal leadership ability is just going to continue to be helpful for most of the characters within the affiliation, as well as several who are not even in the affiliation. As well, Cap stands out as a 4-threat character. He has a built-in guaranteed throw on his big attack, the Shield Slam, but really it's just the bodyguard, the Vibranium Shield, all of his defensive abilities that really make him shine. The next leader worth talking about is Red Skull, and really they're all worth talking about, but Red Skull also, again, just has a lot going for him. The ability to help manipulate movement for your own characters is really strong. An action to gain power, again, really strong, especially for this kind of utility support role that he plays. And again, has one of the better leadership abilities in the game. So after we get out of the core box, we then had Black Panther, who again, I think is an A-tier hero. All these leaders, AMG, I think, has put a little bit of extra effort making sure that they are a little bit above curve, so it doesn't never feel bad bringing your leader into the game. And Black Panther delivers on multiple fronts. His extreme mobility, the outside of an action movement he has with the pounce, the Wakandan affiliation as a whole is pretty good. I do wish that the rerolls were maybe more limited in some ways, because having to pay a power is unfortunate, but Black Panther as a whole is still definitely an above tier or above average 4-threat character. And then we got the Asgardians with Thor leading the way, and I'm actually bumping Thor down from the S tier to A. Thor is still extremely good. I think all of the 5-threat characters that we have seen have been really good.
But where Thor, we first, back in April or March, whenever that first video was released, we had not had Thor for maybe a month at that point, and so we were still getting used to him. We were still figuring out how to play against him, and with that kind of time, he's become normalized, and people know how to deal with him. He's still an extremely potent model, very good leadership ability, especially within the Asgardians that have these more expensive models that don't want to waste time shaking off a status condition. Really enjoy Thor, but I don't think he is this S tier, go into every single list that originally he was when he first came out. And then after the Asgardians, we got the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Star-Lord, I do believe, belongs in the B tier. Maybe if his attack ranges on his element gun and stuff were range 5 instead, he could be bumped up. But I think he is just a really solid, average 3-threat character. He's got some ranged attacks to him, can maybe put out some status conditions, but there isn't a whole lot more to him. The flight is really handy, but he's not a just vibrant, standout character in the way that some of the other A-tier leaders are. And in part that is because his leadership ability is not quite as strong. Having to, instead of using power as a resource, where two of our leaders that we have up here are actually getting you power or getting you discounts of power, and then Black Panther and Thor, of course, are costing you power but for a really strong effect. Star-Lord is actually costing you team tactic cards, which is the even more valuable resource in my opinion. So with that, I'm going to put him down in the B tier. And then after Star-Lord, we got Thanos. And Thanos is one that I am almost regretfully going to put in the B tier as well. I think he is really strong. I think he does a lot of really cool things. But in the same way where I kind of mentioned that I don't want the tactic cards affecting how I look at these models, as just a 6-threat model without access to any of the gems, I'm putting him at B. Now granted, being able to take the gems is part of the appeal, it's part of what makes Thanos probably worth that 6th threat and being able to take multiple gems, and so it's kind of a hard balancing point. But if I had to choose between taking a character like Thor or taking Thanos just on a 1-to-1 ratio there, I would save that point of threat and take Thor. He's got the mobility with the flight. He's got the For Asgard charge-like ability. Their strikes are identical. Thor has a superpower throw, while Thanos plays a little bit more of like a being able to buff his allies and is still extremely strong, especially once you start putting some of those gems on him. But then he's like 7, 8, up to 10 threat, which is crazy all its own. And so in the same way where we see like this just huge difference between some of these 4-threat characters and what the 5-threat characters are able to accomplish, I'm expecting a little bit more out of a 6-threat character. And then we have our just now released leaders with Green Goblin and Miles Morales. Green Goblin, all these guys are a little bit more experimental. In the same way where we had just barely gotten Star-Lord, we have only just now gotten Green Goblin and Miles. And I think that both of these guys probably belong right here in the B tier. Now granted, both of these have really, you know what, Miles is popping up. For 3-threat, having a outside of action movement bonus, and not only does that web swing movement grant movement, but it also gives him a bonus on attack, as well as his leadership ability being free is stupendously good. Green Goblin, fantastic 4-threat model, does a lot, is able, but he has so many changes and quirks. It's very possible that he needs to be moved up to A tier. I have not gotten enough games in to really be able to say, but he seems a little bit power hungry, and the leadership ability, again, it's strong, but costing a resource for a not guaranteed effect, it's not the best kind of leadership ability. If Black Panther was solely based on his leadership ability, he would probably be down in a tier as well, because those rerolls are strong, but at the same time, the guaranteed healing, the guaranteed reroll, or the discounts and stuff that the other leaders are giving, it's just worth a little bit more. Miles, I think, does kind of step it up because of the ability to, one, just get a guaranteed reroll on defense, really handy, and then additionally being able to start modifying and rerolling the fail results is something really good, and a lot of characters outside of the Web Warriors affiliation are going to be able to take advantage of that. And then we finally also do have Doctor Strange leading the Defenders, and I am super excited for Strange, both just as a 5-threat character, what he's going to be able to bring to the table, but also within the Defenders. And now granted at this time, like Green Goblin, like Miles, I've not actually got to play any games with Doctor Strange, because obviously he's not coming out for another month at this point. However, all of his rules look fantastic, and while he is not going to be able to accomplish the same things that Thor, MODOK, Ebony Maw are, because they all hit really hard at the 5-threat, Doctor Strange is going to make your team a lot more survivable in the same way that Captain America can, but also a little bit better in some regards. So I'm extremely excited to see what Doctor Strange is able to do once he hits the tables, and his leadership ability is fantastic. It does cost you a power, but the payoff for that power is extremely nice, both in the attempt to lay out a status condition, but in my opinion, even more importantly, is the being able to swap attack types to a glaring weakness of your opponents. Now sure, some characters have 3s across the board or 4s across the board and it won't matter, but most of these characters have at least one weak spot. And then there's the characters that have a glaring weak spot, like Venom, who's only going to be on the table more since now the Web Warriors, as well as the Spider Foes, are coming out, and he's on both of those affiliations. So, super excited for Doctor Strange. From here, I do want to, instead of just working my way down the list, do something a little bit different, and I'm going to grab all of the 2-threat characters and place them into the B ranking. I like all of these characters. I think they all do their specific job really well, and because until Wong, and I'll talk a little bit about him at the end, they all have one job and they're really good at that job. Okoye is a great up-in-your-face kind of support attack character. She's not going to be dealing tons of damage, but really just being able to have a 2-threat bodyguard is fantastic. Black Widow, stealth, long move, there isn't a lot more to be said. Additionally, she does have martial artist if that has to come into play. Nebula rerolls on attacks against objective holders, gets to heal herself automatically at the start of her activation, 1 reroll on defense. Rocket, range 5, 5 dice energy. All these characters are extremely good at what they do, and I don't think it's fair to any of them to rank them higher or lower than one another at this point, because they all do have that kind of specific job and specific task. From here, though, I do want to start working my way down. Captain Marvel, going to put here in the B tier. Very solid character, still run her in my Avengers list. However, she's just not quite as easy to put into every single list as some of the other 4-threat characters are. She is very expensive on what she is trying to do, or rather the abilities she's trying to use. But I think she is still a fantastic character. The rerolls on her Energy Blast are highly underrated, even to today. She's great. From there, I am actually putting Iron Man down here at the very bottom of the list. I just don't know if he knows what he wants to be. He's got so many different things going on, not necessarily all of them synergize super well with one another. I'm really hoping that we get another version of Iron Man, but right now Iron Man is just that lower tier for me, and it stinks because he's one of my favorite characters in the comics and the movies, but mostly the comics, and I just cannot get him to function in an affiliation that I play, at least, extremely well. And to kind of go along with that, I'm then going to throw Bucky in here at C tier. He and Iron Man seem to have similar ideas of what they want to do, where there's a little bit of like, hey, I'll just hold down a back objective and take some pot shots, and there's also a little bit of being able to be up front and doing things. I think Bucky does a little bit better simply because he has the range 5 instead of range 4. He's able to sit on the back objective a lot better. And with that in mind, I'm also going to go ahead and throw Hawkeye out here a little bit preemptively, because he does what these two characters want to do, at least in my playstyle, but he does them so much better. Being able to get the range 5 attacks off is great, but most importantly, being able to have that hook arrow outside of his action movement means that he's easily going to be able to hook arrow and get 2 shots, or maybe move off an objective, get a shot off, and then move back onto an objective. Being able to change his attack type to fit an enemy's weakness with his energy or physical attacks, the status conditions he can put out. Hawkeye knows what he wants to do and is excellent at it. Spider-Man, I'm going to continue to keep in this kind of B mid-tier range. I know he's not everybody's favorite character. I think he is still a solid character. I've seen people saying that he needs to be 3-threat. I think that that is just completely incorrect. Spider-Man would be crazy 3-threat character. I do maybe wish they had given him one more physical defense that put him up in that A tier. That way his spider sense rerolls would be a little bit more consistent, or at least consistently matter. But otherwise, fantastic character. You activate him, lasting around, he's going to move at least 2 other characters off of objectives, and then probably move himself onto one with that long move. And I mean, that right there is a 3-point difference in a game, which is rather significant. For 4-threat, take that easily. And let's see, Baron Zemo. This is a 3-threat character I also really enjoy. Long move, charge, and rerolls, all bundled into one little package. I think he pushes kind of the edge of what a 3-threat character can be, especially as one that is able to kind of get up in other people's faces. He's got the extra mobility off of his Steel Rush. Really enjoy everything he does. And to kind of pair him off, Valkyrie, I think, is on the same level as Baron Zemo. The charge, they have a lot of similarities. They're both all physical attacks. Valkyrie is a little bit more of a damage dealer, a little bit less mobile, but she also has a throw, which is significant. So I like these two. They offer different things, but in a similar package. Ultron, I'm going to put down here at C. I think Green Goblin coming out being a size 3 flyer diminishes Ultron a little bit here, and you almost have to bring the Age of Ultron card to make him a very viable character to bring into a game. His Metallic Fury is good, but it's no longer this just devastating attack that we're seeing. Still plenty of power behind it, but you're paying power for it, and I don't know. Ultron has never just really impressed me. There are a few more Mystic attacks in the game, I guess, but he does not. He doesn't get to go any higher. He doesn't deserve to be any lower, though, either. And with that, Crossbones, I am moving up from the bottom tier to the C tier. He's growing on me just a little bit. I think the Endure to Pain ability is underrated, as we have seen on Thanos. Being able to just take 0 damage from something is really nice. Granted, Crossbones has to spend a power to activate that ability, but that's the difference between a 3-threat and a 6-threat character. He still has troubles getting to where he needs to be on the board, but if you do line him up where you know you want him to go, turn 1 he can just double move and he can get to the center of the board. So there's that to keep in mind. Mobility issues, yes, but once he's able to get there and start just churning out to haymakers, strikes, he's able to be a pretty potent piece. Somebody else moving their way up the ranking a little bit is Dr. Octavius. Finally having an affiliation to fit in has certainly helped him in my eyes, but also I just forget how durable of a 3-threat character he is. Unfortunately not super consistent on the offensive side, but he does generate his own power pretty easily, with his criticals just gaining him an extra power. It's a really nice ability. He has a throw. That's also really handy. Unfortunately, his strike is only 4 dice. Yes, those wilds do get to count twice, but then you're rolling dice. It's not always going to work out for you. From here, let's talk about Hulk. Hulk I had at the B spot last time, and I think I can't keep him there. I want to. I like Hulk. He does a lot of really cool things, and I think some of the tactic cards that have come out have helped him, especially now that we know that he gets dazed, and so he can then get field dressinged and pop back up. But we're not talking about tactics cards, we're talking purely about the character. And if I'm comparing what Hulk is able to do versus what Thanos is able to do just for 6 threat, Thanos is in a different level. He's so much more durable. His punches are able to hurt pretty much the same because he's able to get the chance at the wild throw. Thanos is able to get power from his strike. Hulk cannot. I think I just like Thanos a little bit more. And one of the things that you'll begin to notice as a trend here, with the exception of one big potent threat that I'm about to talk about, is these short moving characters. It hurts them. They have to rely so much on not getting pushed around and not getting thrown, or having to spend power into their mobility, that it just hinders them so much. And so I feel for Hulk, and I just cannot put him in the same area as Thanos, though. With that, I'm going to put MODOK up here in A. I'll even go ahead and throw him over here next to Thor, because they are 5-threat buddies. Really close to putting MODOK into the S tier, and I think if you are a higher tier player who is able to build a box around MODOK to make sure he's not getting shoved around and all that, he can definitely hop up to that S tier. He is just the most consistent 5-threat character that we have. The dice he's able to throw out, all of those things, he's a powerhouse all his own. I do want to keep him down here at A because that short movement kind of limits him. If he's not getting support from Red Skull moving him up the board or anything like that, it is a downside. From here, Killmonger, B, specialized job, really good at that job, but that's kind of his thing. Shuri, I'm keeping up here at S. She is still one of the few support characters we have in the game, and it makes her so universally usable, because she's not only just support, she's also a fantastic objective player, being able to push other characters off of objectives with ease with her guaranteed push. Doesn't matter what size they are, those Panther gauntlets keep her up there in the S tier. Venom, I think likewise, unfortunately, is going to be in the B tier. I'd like to see him in the A tier, but I don't think that the Web Warriors or the Spider Foes have given him too much to work with. I almost still would rather see him in the Avengers of the Cabal because of the power issues he has, and the sooner he's able to kind of hit that stride of so many snacks and we are Venoms, that's where he just gets to put in the work. Maybe if there's some extra mobility or something, and Lethal Defender does help with that, but he's just not all the way to that tier of elite damage dealer amongst other things. Hela, likewise, very tanky character, able to do some really cool things, but isn't going to be outstanding and just doesn't set herself apart from what some of these other characters are able to do. Loki I am going to put into that A tier, though, because of his anti-support capabilities. Still extremely strong, a area of denial basically, which is even more hampering on those close encounter objectives like Gamma Shelters or Deadly Meteors, is such a potent ability, makes your opponent have to focus on him, and if they're having to focus on Loki, they're not focusing on your Thor or your heavy dealer, damage dealer. So Loki to me gets to stay up in that A tier, as does Vision. Vision and Captain Marvel are so similar to one another, and he just squeaks out on her just a little bit because he is much more power sufficient, or efficient, I guess. Not just in his action to gain 2 power, stupendous, but not what I'm really hinting at here. He doesn't need the power as much as Captain Marvel needs the power to reach that full potential. His throw being a little bit cheaper and being nearly the identical throw, he's got access to some really cool defensive abilities. All in all, just an outstanding 4-threat character that is easily able to be plugged into multiple lists. And with that, I'm going to throw out Corvus and Proxima, and I don't think you can talk about one without talking about the other. between the two, Corvus is a much more of a standout character because he's able to just pop off as a 4 threat character and just do a lot. His flurry, that also the death blow, I guess, really, that has the flurry with the movement, is Zemo-esque in what it's capable of doing. It's a little bit dice reliant, but he is absolutely a monster. Having the invulnerability certainly helps out as well. Proxima is almost reliant on having Corvus Glaive. If I guess maybe if you have both of them out there, she becomes a B or an A instead of a B. But without Corvus, she is not as much of a standout. She just, if you don't have Corvus on the field, I would rather have Valkyrie. I would rather have Zemo fill in whatever role she is supposed to fill. If you have him, so maybe she's like at a B plus A minus range, but I'm just going to drop her down here in the Bs. Gamora, likewise, great 4-threat character, extremely damage centric, reminds me a lot of Killmonger, absolute glass cannon, so you do pay for that extreme damage potential output. And then Groot, I am still keeping down here in the bottom tier, unfortunately. I like Groot, he's a cool guy. He's limited. He can heal himself, but his low energy defense it just makes him such a target. Now that the Guardians have more options, he's not being taken nearly as often. I feel for the guy. I like my big tree, but he just doesn't offer a lot. That short move is very hindering to him. Him being size 3, while it means he's maybe not getting pushed around as much, anybody who's throwing things means that he's also counting as a wrecking ball towards your own teammates. Just all in all, a rather unfortunate situation. Then I'm going to throw Black Dwarf and Ebony Maw both in here at the B category. Both of these characters are able to help support the Black Order. However, I think Black Dwarf is better in the actual Black Order affiliation than Ebony Maw. I think Ebony Maw benefits from the Cabal or the Avengers with the power distribution because he is such a fragile character if he does not have that power. So I think that it's a kind of unfortunate, but I think of the 5-threat characters that we have, he is currently our worst, but he's still really good. From here, I think everybody is pretty much either A or a B, so maybe those categories need to be thinned out some more. I think Spider-Gwen, with her new support tech that is coming, is going to be really cool. Being able to trickster other characters is going to be really strong. And also, she just has a web line, so she also is able to pull people off of objectives, and being able to have a character that you have a task for them for a turn, and then they become fantastic for that task, is going to be really cool. Based off of her strike. So if she moves, then attacks, she gets another free move, or if she double attacks into somebody, that second attack gets to be a whopper. I'm really excited to see what she's going to be capable of down the road as a 3-threat character. Drax and Ronan both are going to go into... Ronan, rather, is probably A-tier worthy. The Judgment Special Condition that is momentarily, at least, unique to him, and I really hope stays unique to him, can be absolutely debilitating to any team that is using superpowers because of the lack of power that they get. It's not just a stun where they get 1 less power, it's just all that damage that you take, you're not getting power in the form from at least attacks. So that Judgment Special Condition, as well, Ronan's able to accomplish a lot for a 4-threat character. He has a throw built into his attack, he's able to get a guaranteed attack off if he gets dazed or KO'd. Allows a lot of flexibility out of him. He's got that medium base, size base, and moves medium, so he's not hampered in any way. I actually really like him. Drax, however, a little bit disappointed by for a 3-threat character. He just doesn't have the damage output that really sets him apart. He is still pretty decently mobile, so he's not like Crossbones kind of shaky. He has a throw on a 3-threat character, which is nice. It's a rather expensive throw. I think some sort of pounce, Assassin's Leap ability, or a charge would have definitely pushed him a little bit too much. but as it stands, he just doesn't have the damage output I was looking for, especially within the Guardians affiliation. Likewise, Black Widow, or Agent Widow rather, very solid character. I like what she's able to do. Her double attacking or double tapping ability with her rapid fire pistols, I don't actually know what it's called. It's not in front of me. I'm sorry, guys. Be disappointed. Let me know in the comments. Joking aside, though, really like her. She has a lot of cool elements to her character, but none of them just make her a standout 3-threat character. She's not super heavy objective play. Yes, she can score an additional point if the situation lines up perfectly for her, but she's not really offering anything entirely special that some of these other 3-threat characters are offering. And finally, this brings me to Wong, the only 2-threat character I'm not going to put in the B tier, and I'm not even going to put him in the A tier. I think he is going to go straight to S with Shuri, because he's going to be a fantastic support piece. Really, to make it into S tier, you need to be a character that, in my opinion at least, can plug into any roster without any questions being asked, and just be like, oh yeah, no, I understand why you're playing that character. Shuri is that good because of her upgrade rerolls and her push effect. Wong, I think, is going to be just universally that good because he's only 2-threat, and he is basically Team Tactic Cards, the character. Being able to advanced R&D and give other characters power is significant, feels like an understatement, and then being able to heal other characters or remove a status condition during his activation is also going to be really strong. I think anytime you're playing at a higher threat level, Wong is not going to be questioned when he makes it onto the table. Maybe he's not going to be the best piece to bring in at the 15-threat games, but I can easily see Wong making it into every single affiliation if he wanted to or needed to, or every single roster with no questions asked, because of that universal ability to fit in and just help his teammates, because every character could always use a little bit of extra power. Every character would not mind having 2 damage removed from them after taking a beating. And Wong being able to move and heal or double move and provide power, and he's able to just gather power himself. Very excited to see what Wong is going to be able to bring to the game, and what he's going to be able to really just interact with other characters and provide on turn 1. Being able to, within the defenders even, just give Hawkeye an extra power. That way Hawkeye can hook arrow into a double shot on turn 1, getting to throw 10 dice into an enemy character is really strong, and Wong still has an action after all that, so very excited to see what he can do. Alright, so that is where I am putting all of the different characters. Alright, and that is where I think I'm going to leave all of the different characters. Looking over everything, I don't see anybody that I think is extremely out of place. And so I'm going to say, yeah, this is my final answer for now. Obviously, I wish I actually had some table time with characters like Miles, Gwen, Green Goblin, Doctor Strange before doing this, but I think just from their understanding the rules and what I think they're going to be capable of on the table, I'm pretty comfortable leaving them where they are. Maybe Miles goes down to a B, but I think that's the only thing that might change in the upcoming, I guess the next tier video 5 or 6 months from now, as this will probably become a biannual event. However, while we're on the internet, now is as good a time as any to do the drawings, so to speak, of the guild's first giveaway of some of those early organized play kit prize support. So, from YouTube, we had 88 unique comments, so thank you guys so much for that. And from YouTube, we will have Flint0204. Really enjoying the content, watch all your videos. new player. Thank you so much, Flint, for your kind words. I will be reaching out to you not too long after this video goes live, so you can look forward to hearing from me, and I will contact you. As well, we also have our winner to pick from Facebook, where there were 55 unique comments. And from Facebook, we have Mitch Cohen. Doesn't actually show the comment apparently for the Facebook ones, but Mitch, I will be reaching out to you as well later today, the day this video goes live. Look forward to getting to send you guys that alternate art Captain America and Red Skull character cards, along with the Avengers Assemble alternate art and some other goodies.
Thank you to everyone who participated. There were so many kind and thoughtful words shared over the past couple of weeks, and it has me very excited for the future of this game and the community. Speaking of community, I need and want to give an additional thank you to the viewers who are directly supporting the channel through Patreon. I am eternally grateful for your support of what I am doing here. If you have enjoyed the content put out by the channel for a while, I would be honored if you went to check out the Patreon page. I'll have a link down in the description. And if you are new and enjoying the Marvel Crisis Protocol coverage, consider subscribing so that you can stay up to date. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.